I'm about to feed them to the sharks right now. Get them hype right now. Yeah. You know the ground is up. Yeah. Everybody that trains, you know the game. Yeah. So let's get it. Slap it up, bump it, and roll. Hey. Yeah, that's the way that it goes. Ain't no better way to better yourself in this game. You're feeling the growth. That's time on the mat. We put in the work. Believe it ain't easy, I know. But we train for the love of the game, the love of the art. Now slap it up, bump it, let's roll.
Welcome to episode 36 of the BJJ Campaign Podcast. My name is Jeff Boone. I'm an A3 blue belt, 2 stripes.
This is Phil Coors, A2 blue belt, 1 stripe.
And I'm John Telford, an A2 brown belt with 2 stripes.
2 stripes? There's like 15 stripes on your brown belt.
Well, there's 1 stripe on my belt right now, and it's kind of like hanging on by a thread. I think it almost fell off at Piper's yesterday.
How was training at Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu Academy?
It was really good. I think I spent more time in the crucifix yesterday than the rest of my jiu-jitsu career combined. I started and did maybe 3 rounds straight with John, and he just crucifixed me from everywhere, and like I couldn't figure out the puzzle. Luckily, like by the 3rd round, he started showing me like some of the escapes and some of the like cheat codes to like navigate my way through this. So by the time the rest of his students were trying to do the exact same thing to me, I at least had like a couple answers for him. But it was very, very good training.
You had to know with John Piper you were getting the crucifix. His match with Fredson Pajal at last Toro Cup was amazing.
It was pretty insane.
And CJ Murdoch's commentary on that match was also pretty amazing.
Is that the short arms one?
Yeah.
No, you can't read that. Was funny.
Oh, CJ.
That was great. That was a good moment in Toro Cup history for sure.
So we've done a couple of Toro Cups, gone out and watched them. You helped do all the matchmaking, stuff like that. And you also work with U.S. Grappling. How did you kind of get into competitive jiu-jitsu? How did that all start?
Man, so my jiu-jitsu career or journey is actually like probably a little different than most people's. I started out like weightlifting at I think it was a O2 Fitness at the time, and in the back of this O2 Fitness was the original Chapel Hill, what was then Team Rock Chapel Hill, with Spencer Aitor Canup, Jake Whitfield, Mazi Hadari, Hardy Merritt was over there, a bunch of guys. And they were all training in this little back room over there, and I was just making bagels. And somebody had kind of introduced this idea of jiu-jitsu to me. And so I had like popped in there and taken a couple classes, but it was like I couldn't really afford it. And let me backstep. It wasn't that I couldn't afford it. This is the same conversation that everybody has about jiu-jitsu, right? I could afford it. I was just choosing to spend my money in other places.
Right.
So not so wisely.
Yeah, mostly bars was the main place. So come I want to say it was my 23rd birthday, I decided that I would stop smoking cigarettes and stop drinking and get in shape and go do this Naga tournament. Because I saw a flyer for a tournament at the O2 Fitness that I guess somebody from the Chapel Hill, the Team Rock crew had dropped on the ground. So I saw this tournament in DC and decided I want to go do this. And if I do okay at this, then we'll pay somebody to like take some classes and figure this whole thing out. But like if I suck, then let's just go back to making bagels. I don't need to waste my time with this. So I like cut down to 139 pounds, like with all of the training I'd learned from watching The Ultimate Fighter. And so I was it like maybe a day before, I had ordered a sweatsuit from, what was it, MMA Warehouse or MMA, one of those like just awful MMA companies online.
Affliction.
Like, it was like the it definitely was a tattooed logo, whatever it was. It looked like a tattoo. And I had like a jump, like the sweatsuit, you know, I'm still like guzzling water, have no like concept of like how this whole thing works. And so I go sit in a sauna in North Carolina in Durham and like cut down to 139 pounds, and then get in a car and drive to DC just completely dry with, again, no concept of like any of this.
At least you didn't have to worry about stopping to pee.
This is very true. But like again, this was all based off of my like vast study of the Ultimate Fighter at this point to learn martial arts. And so we went to Naga, and I did well. I think I got second, and like it was pretty fun. It was like the novice division, so like these people were like, I mean, they'd gone to some classes, but like we probably all knew the same stuff, right? And then I decided like, okay, this is pretty fun. I'll like shell out some money here and find somebody to do this. So that was it. That was the beginning.
That's incredible. That's an incredible cast of Jiu-Jitsu, North Carolina Jiu-Jitsu practitioners that you were just talking about, Mozzie, all those guys. I mean, they've been in the game for a very long time.
Yeah, for sure.
And what year was that, Bagels?
It was 2009. Yeah, I believe the tournament was October 2009, because I think this year will be 10 years in October.
Wow. And probably chose Naga just for the sweet sword.
Again, didn't know any. No. This is where it gets even sweeter, because I do this Naga tournament. I come back and I do some research, and like the gym in Chapel Hill was great, but they didn't have a daytime class at that time. And so for me, it was an issue of I needed to find somewhere that I could go train at noon so that I wouldn't make any bad mistakes or bad decisions. Because I would get off work at Brugger's at, say, 1 o'clock from making bagels. Well, between 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock, that's a lot of time to make bad decisions and find something else or any other excuse to do other than go train. And so finding a place with a midday class where in the middle of the day I was able to go in and train hard and then come out. You guys know how it is to train. You feel great afterwards.
It's always better after.
Yeah, and so then you're just keep trucking along on that kind of clean path, and it was a big game changer for me for sure. If you were to talk to my parents or people that knew me 10 years ago, life was headed in a different direction for sure.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's very self-aware of you to know that you kind of had to have that structure in order to succeed, because this is a tough campaign. Jiu-Jitsu is hard, and in order to succeed, and success just looks like this to me. It's just doing it every day that I can.
And that was the thing. There was the period of time for me first finding out about Jiu-Jitsu, being introduced to people like Spencer, Jake Whitfield, these guys teaching there. To me, actually signing up was a couple years, a process of me building up the courage, if you will, to go into this room, and a lot of people I think don't understand how intimidating those rooms can be sometimes, especially when it's a room full of tough MMA fighters.
Sure, yeah.
And so it was a long process to get to just all right, we're doing it, we're not turning back, and glad we did.
Yeah. So that first year, what did your training schedule whenever you did that? You would do the noon classes. What did your training whenever you started? What did your training schedule look like? Did you go 2, 3, 4?
So I used to work. So I was working at Brugger's. Mm-hmm. The Bagels name.
Yeah.
We can get that out of the way. A lot of people think that there is some really hilarious story, or a lot of parents think that there's an inappropriate story behind it. They'll come up and they'll cover their kids' ears and they'll say, "What does the Bagels mean?" What do you think it means? You tell me where you're headed with this.
You're a freak.
Yeah, what is going on here? Because I
am a married man.
I can only think of one reference to the bagel here, right? And no. And so I worked at Brugger's for 7 years.
A local bagel making company, really good bagels, really good.
They're not as good now. I don't make them anymore.
Obviously.
But so I would go in there. I started there in high school. And I was the baker. So I would go in at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to make the bagels and open up the shop and everything. So because I worked there for so long, and it at the time wasn't a corporate company, it was an independent franchise.
Sure.
So we were a little more had a little more lax scheduling and ability to kind of do what we wanted. And I was really good at my job. So they would let me leave. I would like make a whole bunch of bagels, and then I would like clock out at 11. Or not clock out. But I would leave at 11. And then I would drive from Durham to Raleigh, out to Billy Dowie and Jason Culber's gym, which was the original Forge Fitness out there, exactly. And I would take the noon class. I would train, and then I would drive back and finish my shift at Brugger's and clock out. And then I would go, at the time I was working at a shop called the Flying Triangle, which was a MMA and like apparel company that this lady Angie started kind of right when the UFC was sort of like booming. But unfortunately it was at South Point in Durham, in like storefront retail space, which is not cheap. And so like there would be weeks that I'd be sitting in the store and nobody would come in. I would sit in the middle of the store with a plasma screen on the wall, and I watched UFC 1 through whatever UFC we were at then, and I would just put it on repeat, and I would just sit there and watch all day. But then go back at night, train again, drive back to Durham, go to sleep for a couple hours, wake up, make the bagels, go do the same thing the next day. And then as the jiu-jitsu kind of increased and we moved into doing, I started doing MMA, that time I started leaving the bagel shop earlier and earlier and earlier to when finally with fighting amateur MMA and treating amateur MMA like a business, I was able to like generate enough revenue to finally like walk away from that and just train and just do that. And so that was like kind of how we got from there to.
And how long of a period of time was that? Was that a year? Was it
I think it was 3 years,
3 years,
something like that, I believe.
Yeah.
It was the majority of my, like a good portion of my MMA career was still working at Brugger's, because I remember like coming in and like being like really, really tired and just dead, or not being able to eat anything in here because it's all bagels, right? And like.
And beat up to boot from doing MMA stuff.
Yeah, I never really got beat up too bad. We were always pretty smart about our training for the most part. There was a few occasions where Jason and Billy tried to murder us, but like outside of that, we were pretty good. Like I remember them one day, I don't remember if it was Jason or Billy, but like they'd come in and they felt like we were like, people were kind of keeping a little too much distance. So I think it was Jason. He tied our front feet together. Our lead feet got tied together, and so you were always in the pocket, and you couldn't get away from each other, and it was just like a sling fest, right? They would also have us like stand, and you've probably seen it with like a tire. You have to stand with your lead foot in the tire, and you just like fight from there. Those are always fun.
Idea.
One of the best quotes, I remember Billy coming in the gym one day, and like we were always pretty good. There was a core group of guys there that were training. We were all about the same size. 5 of us lived in a house together, which was a shit show in and of itself. And so like we kind of were pretty responsible for each other's well-being, if you will. We weren't trying to like kill each other. But sometimes Billy really wanted us to like, we needed to kick it up a notch. Like we had fights coming up. He was trying to push us. So I remember one time he came in and he like stopped us and he's like yelling at us, "You guys need to be going harder. A little blood never ruined a friendship," was the quote. A little blood never ruined a friendship. And I'm sparring with one of my roommates, Max Dorn, and we turn and like within 5 seconds you just hear, "Ow!" And do you guys remember Nathan Newborough? I think he trained with you guys.
Yeah, Nathan.
Yeah, Owie Nate.
Yesterday.
Yeah, we call him Owie Nate because he would always getting hurt. But it was Owie. It was Nate. And you just hear, "Ow!" And his nose is like broken and just bleeding everywhere. We're like, oh God. Like we all feel so bad. But I mean, I'm also laughing a little bit because of the timing of the whole thing, and it's Owie Nate and like poor guy. But it was definitely within like 10 seconds. A little blood never ruined a friendship. And then like, "What up?" And I looked at Max and I was like, there went a friendship. And we just kept on sparring.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Wow. I didn't know Nathan trained with you guys.
Oh yeah, Nathan and I Nathan taught kids with me for, I probably taught with him for like 4 years.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm.
At 4 states,
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I did want to actually get into that topic. That makes a good segue. In that. Phil and I, Phil more than me, but we both help coach the kids at Fight to Win with John Plyler,
Mm-hmm.
Denver, North Carolina, and I see your do privates with kids. You've got all these lessons. You're great with the kids. I love watching the videos, the one of you and the talent show. And tell us a little bit about what your recommendations are for someone who's thinking about coaching the kids, helping coach their kids' team.
So, where should we start here? I guess the biggest thing is you've got to be able to like take yourself a little less seriously.
Sure.
Right? So you've got to be able to kind of have two roles. You've got to be able to turn on the bad cop, but also I've got to be able to be like silly, let's play, let's have fun. You can be very comfortable with me, Coach Bagels. Having that line of let's have fun, but also when I say go or when I say stop, this means now, right? It's hard for some people. Some people don't necessarily like being bad cop. I have no problem with being bad cop. I understand that at the end of the day, the reward is going to be greater here. If I have to upset this child for 10 minutes because they have to do something they don't want to do, or I am disciplining them or reprimanding them for something, in the end, the result here is going to be worth this 10 minutes of, crying, whatever it is. So kind of like looking at the bigger picture of everything versus just one individual class is probably like the big takeaway, I would say.
For sure. And here's something that I personally struggle with the kids, and that is how much technique is too much technique. In other words, instead of I find myself now laying off of giving any kind of corrective advice or most of it, and give mostly positive reinforcement on that. But there are certain times, man, where you have to say something. What are your thoughts on that subject? Like, what do you use as criteria for?
So, in terms of like correction,
yeah,
I kind of operate, and this again depends on the student. I have some kids who are very, very motivated, and like they can take the corrections. If they're doing something wrong, they want to know, right? I have other kids they're just kind of they're just having fun right now.
Sure.
And like my goal, I need to make sure that little Tommy keeps having fun, because for little Tommy to love jiu-jitsu, we got to get to that point where he understands what's happening. And so there might be a period where we're just trying to make sure Tommy's having fun, right? And so I kind of operate on a 3-strike method, where say Phil is trying to do an arm bar, and I'm trying to get him to put his hand on the chest a certain way. And I've come over and I've said, Phil, stop. Let's look at it. Let's switch our hands and let's do it like this. And I'll explain why, right? And usually an explanation of why really helps, really goes a long way in reinforcing why we're doing this. All right, cool. I walk away. I go help Jeff over here. He's also doing it wrong. He's blue belt. He's blue belt also.
Yeah, of course. I'm totally doing it wrong.
Standard. And then I look back and like he's making the exact same mistake again, right? I'll come back. Cool, come back. Hey Phil, remember let's try to like put this hand on the bottom. Remember, because if we do it this other way, X, Y, and Z is going to be the result. This is what's going to happen.
Right.
He's like, oh, okay. Let him go. Cool. Come back. Go help you again, because you're close, but you don't quite have it yet. You're close.
Yeah, I believe that. I don't believe I'm close.
And then I look over and it's the exact same thing. He's still doing the exact same thing with his hand. Okay, I'll come over one more time. Hey, remember we're gonna try to like do it this way. Blah blah blah. Cool. Go away. Phil does it again. It's cool. Make that mistake,
like,
Phil.
yeah.
Make that mistake. As long as Phil is not hurting the other child's getting to do their drills.
Yeah.
We're moving along here. If we're talking about one detail in a series of a move, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Especially depending on how you're running your program, I run, like when I write lesson plans for a kids program, it very much builds. So say we're going to do a guard pass this week, right? Or this month, or whatever it is, whatever the time frame is. If we're going to do, say, a knee cut pass this week, right? Cool, we'll drill this knee cut pass all week. Next week, we're going to drill the knee cut pass, right? Because everybody already knows the knee cut pass, but we'll add on to it, person from the bottom will now hip escape and recover guard, right? So now I'm able to reinforce the knee cut pass that we did from the week before. I'm able to make sure that we're like, everybody still got these details, and I can kind of nitpick a little bit more now, where everybody kind of has the idea of like, slide your knee through, don't knee him in the nuts too much, right? Everybody's got this idea, don't knee him in the face, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Now I can go through and explain like, hey, let's see how they're still holding onto your foot there? Let's move our head to the other side and use our head to turn their head, and now we can free our foot. And I can go around kind of one at a time and individually help the kids that are ready for that next level of technique versus piling it on for a bunch of kids that
don't need it.
They're not ready for this.
Yeah. I've noticed it's definitely like case by case. Like everybody's a little bit different. They're all in different places. And there'll be some people you can walk by and you just add that like next little detail that'll just make it a little easier for them.
Because jiu-jitsu, unlike a lot of like what I would call traditional martial arts, like karate, taekwondo, they are reliant on a partner, right? And so especially with kids, if you have one kid who understands what we're doing, right? So we'll stick with the knee cut pass, right? But the child on the bottom is just like completely completely noodled out, right? Then the person, they're not even doing the move, right? So it's a matter of understanding that like we can't just go from 0 to berimbolo, right? Like it doesn't work like that. There's a lot that has to be covered in between, and like they have to know the game. You wouldn't just throw some kids on a basketball court and give them a ball and be like, all right, you guys ready for the game? Tweet! Like, there's some, like, we're going to explain some things, right? Like, here's how you win, here's how you lose. Like, you don't want to do this, you don't want it right. So, like, there's some steps we got to follow.
That's really good advice. And for those of you out there that are thinking about coaching a kids class, it's a tremendous benefit to your own jiu-jitsu game, right? I mean, whenever you start doing that, you see, like John, whenever he shows a technique, he always just shows it first. He doesn't really say anything, and then he'll go through it with a very small explanation, not any key points, not a huge amount of detail, and he always says, we're just trying to get them to enjoy it at this point, and then we'll build upon that enjoyment so that they can do this for a lifetime. So it's helped my jiu-jitsu. I wish I could do it more, quite honestly, because it gives me more of the reason.
It's hard. It's this very similar with like the intro programs that we were talking about earlier. Like I teach a 6 a.m. intro program in Richmond, and I have to remind myself every day that like these people don't need all the details. They don't need to be perfect at this.
So when you get like a new person, I've noticed like when I'm trying to work just like anything, I try to do like one detail correction per maybe rep. Do you have like any kind of idea with that, or again depending on the person?
So again, depending on the person, you kind of like, I personally tend to like, especially if I'm not instructing the class, if I'm just participating in the class, if it's something like, I mean, like we're not even close to doing the drill correctly, then like I'll try to help them out. Outside of that, I try to have the instructor, whoever's teaching said class, come over and explain like what they want them to do here. Small adjustments I'll help them with, but for some stuff, one, I'm on the bottom or I'm in another position, I can't necessarily see what you're doing here. And then like we talked about earlier, this instructor might have a different path for this person, meaning like maybe if Tommy, I don't know who Tommy is, but he's really getting a lot of flack today. Maybe Tommy, we just want him to like get the concept of this knee cut pass down. Okay. Like, and we don't need to beat him to death with like wrong. And so as somebody who's just a participant of the class, a student, I'm Like, I mean, you're a blue belt, I'm a brown belt, but we're all just kind of in this class together, and here's the instructor. And so, like, in my gym in Richmond, there's situations where I have blue belts at our gym. They're better in certain positions than I am at some things. And so, like, the idea that I am the de facto answer because I'm the upper belt isn't necessarily always the case, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like, so sometimes I'll try to, like, if me and another person are drilling a technique and they're having a little trouble with something, I'll like, Andrew, can you come over here and help them the leg thing? I think something's a little off here. Versus just trying to guess and, like, try to figure it out together. Because, again, that third person perspective, he has a much better view of what's happening here. He's the one that showed this technique.
Right.
He knows what he wants out of this class.
Yeah, of course. No, I think that's really good advice, especially for whenever you work. You know, Phil and I, we kind of take on a senior role in the academy, and we're paired up with those new people, and we want them to enjoy it. Just have fun.
You know, nobody wants to just get the, like, wrong. People don't want that, right? Especially, and some people don't necessarily understand the, like, structure or the hierarchy of jiu-jitsu that, like, hey, this guy that's a brown belt, he's got a pretty good understanding of what's going on here, right? And so, like, to not just kind of beat them down the whole time, I think really helps.
Yeah.
I guess I meant, like, if someone was doing, say, a scissor sweep or something, they were doing, like, 8 things wrong. If somebody told me all 8 things I was doing, I just don't remember it.
You're right.
So I would try to do, like, maybe, like, hey, get up on your elbow, you know.
Yeah, you got to start with, like, you know, the most, for me, it would be, like, the most easily correctable thing. Let's fix this first.
Just one
Bam.
thing
This, let's fix this.
That's kind of
perfect. We got that fixed. All right, now let's look at this. And then it's not a matter of, like, hitting them with the, God, you're so dumb. You got 8 parts of this wrong at once.
Right.
Then as you're going through, you fix the hand grip. Let's get a cross grip when we do this. Let's try a cross grip on this. And then you do it like, that feels better? Then instead of, like, the active correction, it's like, we're kind of figuring this thing out here together, right?
Yeah, and I particularly like when I remember back whenever I first started, and I was going with Legs, Ryan Leggett. He's now one of our black belts. Phenomenal, really great teacher, and he kind of took me under his wing whenever we started because I was a big guy, he was a big guy, and I remember we were doing something. I can't even remember what the technique was that we were doing, and he would give me like one correction, and I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, so good. And he'd give me another correction, and then like after like 5 minutes, we'd done an extended drilling on this or something. I was like, I wasn't doing any of that shit right, was I? He was like, no, not really, but that's okay.
But that's all right.
It's like, it's okay. Are you having fun? I'm like, yeah, it's great.
And, like, that's the same attitude for kids.
Yeah.
Like, I have some kids, like, man, I have this adorable kid, and he is one of my favorite students, but, like, he could care less about winning a jiu-jitsu match. Doesn't care at all. Doesn't care. But, like, man, he's going to go to that tournament. He's going to have a good time. He's going to smile the whole time. He's going to lose all of his matches. But, like, he's going to have a blast. And just, like, that's cool. Eventually, somewhere along the line, like, I've done this long enough with kids where, like, I've had these kids where, like, it's just, like, everything's just bouncing off their head. Nothing's going in.
Right.
And then something happens. They see a fight at school. They see something, and they decide, like, oh, I know what's going on now. And then they, like, now this kid, like, everything that you thought wasn't getting in there, that you thought they weren't paying attention to, all of a sudden, like, this kid is doing all of it. And you're like, whoa, all right, you know jiu-jitsu now. Right? And so, like, sometimes it seems like they're not getting it. It seems like they're not paying attention. They are. It's soaking up in there, and eventually it'll come out if you can keep them in there long enough.
And who's to say that that's not the right attitude all the time?
For life in general,
yeah,
right? Like,
be happy, man. Screw it. Win, lose, draw, whatever.
God, bless his parents. They're so supportive of his just like,
it's awesome.
Attitude. It's great.
That is awesome. Great insight on that too, and really appreciate you sharing that with us. I mean, Phil and I both want to be better at helping the kids, and again, realizing the benefits of what it is to help coach the kids through your own jiu-jitsu journey. I think it's a really important step.
For sure. I mean, being able to explain if you can explain the hows and the whys to a 5-year-old, you're getting a decent understanding of what's going on here at this point, right? I mean, unless you're just making stuff up. You're like, it's magic! That's cool, too. I say that sometimes also. It's acceptable.
Oh, that's great. So I want to bring up, the John Bagels Telford travel tips and hacks. Because it's amazing. You and Bruiser Bev see you all over Instagram, traveling all over the world, everywhere. Tell us a little bit about what gives you the passion for that travel. What makes you driven to do that?
So I guess it probably starts from a young age. My parents are very adventurous, and from a young age, we if there was a Memorial Day, whatever the weekend was, like a 3-day weekend, the summer, we were always going on trips places, whether it was camping, backpacking, going wherever. We traveled a lot, and so I started to get that enjoyment from seeing new places and meeting new people. And then with Bev, we both have such a love for food that man, a lot of places, we're going to Spain with my buddy Max and his girlfriend and Sean Zorio the day after Nogi Pans in September, specifically to go to one restaurant.
Wow.
But I mean, we're gonna do other things there and have fun.
Is it a tapas restaurant?
It is.
Yeah,
it is Tickets. It's Albert Adria's restaurant.
Okay.
So he used to have the #1 restaurant in the world. It's called El Bulli. He has a new place called Tickets in Barcelona. So we're looking forward to going to that.
It's awesome.
But I don't know. It's just it's a big place out there. I kind of want to see it all.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And then jiu-jitsu is they go together so well that when we travel, whether it's traveling for over the years I've traveled so much for running U.S. grappling events, then that travel kind of stretched out or expanded with doing IBJJF events where I've competed all over the world with that. And then now it's man, it'd be really fun is if we went to some of those places but didn't do the tournament. Say we just went there and did vacation. So
that way you're not having to cut weight.
Boom. The flight there is like a balloon. The flight there is a lot more enjoyable than, dying, requesting the gluten-free meal on the transatlantic flights but
So I want to talk about that because that is something that we talk about. I travel a lot for work. I used to travel a lot more, going to different places, but now I cover mostly North Carolina and Virginia. And, I love training in other places. Like I said, I used to be in Richmond a lot. That's whenever I was, John said, look up Andrew Smith, go to Revolution BJJ, go train there. And I used to train in that 6 a.m. class all the time. Loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Trey would teach sometimes. Daniel Frank would teach other times. But give the audience a little bit of an idea of what you do and how you kind of set it. Let's back up. Maybe not necessarily you or what they should do, because you're pretty well known around the jiu-jitsu circle now. And if you message somebody, you probably know the person that you're going to train with. But let's say you're traveling abroad and you don't know that person. What kind of tips do you have for folks who are looking to train while they're not at home?
So jiu-jitsu when you travel, the easiest thing to do is find out where you're going and then look up the academies around you and find somewhere with a schedule, find a class you want to go to. Or talk to your instructor and ask them and say, hey, I'm going to wherever. Do you know anybody here? Chances are they do.
Yeah.
For the most part. The jiu-jitsu world is just kind of like that. People know people. And so if you can have any sort of initial connection, it makes things much easier, where if your instructor can reach out and send a message and say, hey, my student's coming to your town and wants to know if they can come train. That always works great. Outside of that, doing that on your own also works very well. Just sending a very nice message. Hey, I'll be in town. I'd love to come train. Is that a possibility? Blah, blah, blah. Move along, right? And then you need to understand and be ready to pay something, right? This is a big misconception with a lot of places, is that because jiu-jitsu is such an awesome community that like this is something that you should get to do for free wherever you go. And like, granted, the majority of places, a lot of places will just let you drop in for free. That being said, you should still be prepared to pay something. And so if you go somewhere and train and they don't want to take money from you for like a drop-in fee, my recommendation is that you buy something from them. Support that academy in some way, whether it's buying a rash guard, a t-shirt, a hat, whatever. Buy something. Give these people some money and let them know that you are appreciative of being there and them welcoming you in. Because all the other people that are there are paying to be there every day. This is their membership, right? And so for you to come into their class and take a percentage of their instructor's time, you should be appreciative of that. Now, outside of that, I think it's very beneficial because, like, if I travel to a new place and I don't know anybody and don't know where anything is, want maybe some connections to find anything, some food, whatever. And it's really easy to go to a jiu-jitsu gym, right? I don't have to go meet a stranger on the sidewalk and ask them random questions. I can just go to a jiu-jitsu gym, train, and then without a doubt, we're going to have a conversation afterwards. Even if we're in another country, we can figure this out, right?
Yeah.
With jiu-jitsu and like our hands, we can figure out a way to communicate here with Google Translate and whatnot. That like you're able to kind of get a good inside scoop of like, hey, you should go to this restaurant, you should go eat these things, don't buy this, like whatever the case may be. But it's nice to get that kind of insider's travel guide, if you will, and do jiu-jitsu at the same time.
For sure, I totally agree, and you're spot on that. I always ask, hey, happy to pay the customary mat fee, whatever it is. And I would add on to that too, when you finish at that place, go leave them a review, right? Post on Instagram, get a picture with them, make sure that they have positive feedback so that it does a couple things, right? It boosts their business, right? They see that you reach different people than they would normally reach, and they get a benefit from that. Plus, the next time you go back, you're going to be welcomed back with open arms. That's just the way it works.
I would say the last thing I would add is if you were somewhere training and you were like on the last class or things are finishing up there, stay and clean up.
Always.
Stay and help clean up.
100%.
I can't tell you how many times I see people come visit, and then when everybody goes to grab a mop, they're like, see ya. Like, oh, okay. I like you less now.
100%. Yeah. Always make it a point, because that's when you have the conversations, right? About where
exactly
to do, where to go to. That's an invaluable.
And it could very well be that like you go and try to grab a mop and they're not going to let you clean up. That's fine. It's just like the mat fee thing. They might not want to take any money from you. That's fine. But you should make the effort.
Sure.
You should make the effort to insist.
Yeah. And Phil's pretty outgoing, so he always does that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But to be honest, when I do most travel, like outside of America, I don't train. I don't bring a gi.
Do you not?
Mm-mm.
Oh, wow.
It takes up too much of my luggage, too much of my space, and then I've got a sweaty gi, and then there's you've seen my belt.
Yes.
And so, like, if I go somewhere, John Piper's Academy everybody at Piper's Academy was very nice to me yesterday. Most other places where I go, if I show up, there is like a gigantic bullseye on my back. And so it's not like go and do let's go do some rolls and like do some like hippie jiu-jitsu or whatever you want to call it, where you like float around and whatever. No. People are trying to win. And so it's a matter of like, it's a full day for me. It's like I got to wake up and eat breakfast, and then I got to go and train, hope I don't get hurt or injured. Like, I have a black eye right now from yesterday. That was at the wedding. That was nice. And so, like, the risk of injury versus, like, trying to enjoy my vacation, I do jiu-jitsu, like, almost every day. So,
yeah.
I've done
matches while I'm
yeah, I trained in Taiwan, and it was pretty brutal. People were trying to murder me. It was really hot, and like again, being on different time zones, different diets, like everything's different. It's just kind of eats up a whole day of vacation.
Yeah, no, I get it. Understood. Next thing I want to get into is the Toro Cup. You've been in the Toro Cup since it started, right? I mean,
I think I was on Toro Cup 1 as a competitor. I believe. Yes. I think I had a match with, I think it was Toro Cup 1. I had a match with Joseph Carroll. It was, I think I still have brain damage from that match. I think it was Toro Cup 1. I was a purple belt, and he was a black belt. And I think we had gone through the regulation period, maybe, and into the points. Or it was the end of the regulation period, and I had set a guillotine coming up. And when I set the guillotine, we came up to the feet, and I'm driving him across the mat because there's a short time left, I think, and I'm trying to get the finish because I was tired and didn't want to go to that points round. And he catches both my wrists, traps both my hands around his neck, and does the guillotine defense, where you sit through.
Sure.
But a lot of people watch the video and are like, why didn't you just let go? That was so dumb. Man, I really wanted to let go. He was holding on to both of my hands. And so you just see me face plant head first into the mat. And Billy Dowie turned it into, I don't know what it's called, the GIF?
Yeah.
Is that when it's repeats a whole bunch?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just bam, 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 bam. Just my face. And my feet go straight up in the air. And I'm super concussed. I kind of get up for a second. And Murdoch is reffing. And he's like, you okay, Bagels? I'm like, I don't know. I try to take Joe down, and it doesn't work. I think Joe ends up getting a takedown and winning on 2 points or something. And meanwhile, I'm on another planet.
That's hilarious.
It was but man, Joseph Carroll, one of the nicest people in the game. Him and his brother, they were really nice. But yeah, he got me with the self-defense. It was funny because there used to be a
great
thing.
Move too, by the way.
There used to be a good joke between Billy Dowie and I doing a lot of local tournaments, doing the Noki divisions. I would try to use self-defense moves to win in the tournaments, and we would do it and I mean stand there and let him run around and bear hug you and try to pick you up and suplex you so you could do the knee bar. But when you did, you had to yell self-defense, or it didn't count. And so it made it only better because I'd done that a bunch to people. It only made it better that I got highlight reel. And it was on the internet for a while, just pow, 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 and the comments of people shitting on me were brutal. All these people that guy's so dumb. White belts know better than to do that. Blah 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 blah.
Oh, there's always an armchair.
Gotta stay out of the comments.
Always out that. That's hilarious. But one of the reasons that the BJJ Campaign podcast supports Toro Cup is always goes to a worthy cause. I think that's something that you guys have really done right over the years, and it really makes us proud to be alongside all those other sponsors to be doing that. So thank you for that. Not to mention that best rules set in the game.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean,
I like it.
For those of you who don't know, black belts 15
minutes.
Then they go to an overtime with points, and then if there's no points scored at the end of the overtime, it's a sudden death. So the first points win, right?
And then a key point to that is there's no advantages scored at all at that whole point. So the match will never be decided by some weird ambiguous, I thought he did this as the referee. It's, did you pass the guard? Did you mount them? Did you do X, Y, or Z?
Right.
Yeah.
And then that long initial period, for black belts, that 15-minute time period, watching guys, they have to make a mental switch from fighting a submission-only mindset to a points mindset. And it has to happen like that. And I don't know if you remember, I think it was Josh Williams, Andrew Bittner, maybe the first one. I think the first one. They went through the regulation period, and then as soon as the points round started, Bittner was so tired that they stood up, and it was he was on another planet and just got double leg. Boom!
Yeah.
It was so fast. And
yeah.
That's happened with other people too, where people they don't make the switch quick enough. And there's also a strategy there of at what point in the submission only round do you stop trying to go for the kill and maybe save a little energy? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
It's very tough.
And then you have, after the points, you have the sudden death round, first person to score. So that changes everything again, right?
100%. You got to be default aggressive on that whenever you're there. Or what I really like about that is you've got an opportunity. If you're a guard player, you've got an opportunity to play guard and sweep or do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want.
That's what I really like about that first points method. So kudos to you guys on adopting that rule.
It was also like, I mean, I don't know if you remember talking to Boomer. Like, this thing kind of spiraled out of the Metamoris, Metasnoris, or whatever they call it. Like, they had all these matches, and I remember, like, we all used to get so excited for them. We'd, like, all get together like it was like a UFC or something, right? You have people over to your house, and you'd be like, this sucks! Like, this sucks! Nobody is motivated to win here. Yeah. Like, everybody is fighting for the draw, and, like, this sucks. And then you have the other side, which is like the EBI style rules, which is, at the time, was great. It was like, man, this is exciting, but the overtime, like, now it's become, people are gaming that. Now it's become, we're going to stall until we get to the overtime, and I'm really good at escaping this one position, or I'm really good at starting in a fully locked-in armbar or triangle. Like, I don't understand the concept of that.
It's terrible because you're never going to be presented with that option in jiu-jitsu in a tournament, right?
Well, to me, it's like starting on your knees. It's like the equivalent of like if like all your training for jiu-jitsu is starting on your knees. Well, like in what world? Like, show me the jiu-jitsu tournament where you start on your knees. Show me the street fight where, like, after we push each other and curse at each other and chest bump or whatever, we then drop to our knees to fight each other. Never in the history of ever. It's so
Phil's
dumb.
done that a couple times, but
that's like probably like one of my biggest pet peeves is yelling. I yell at people about that a lot. If I see like two people just like crawling around on the mat on their knees, pushing each other around, like, somebody sit down. It's just so stupid. Like, do some jiu-jitsu. Like, you guys just spent 10 minutes like crawling around like toddlers. What is this?
That's hilarious.
You're just like stupid.
And so you do a lot with Toro Cup. One of the best hype men out there. Toro Cup is always, ladies and gentlemen, whenever the match is going on, if it's a really good match, sometimes the crowd needs a little bit of encouragement.
It's like people don't know what they're watching.
And I find it too, because I'm like, oh my God. Instead of clapping, and then, you bring the crowd, elevate the crowd up to that.
And I'm lucky that I have that first period of submission only, where, like, I'm the ref, but, like, what am I reffing? I'm just making sure, just stay in here. Don't punch each other. Like, I can be like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like also a lot of things happen that people can't necessarily see what's happening. And so, like, these guys will do something awesome, and I know what it's like to work really hard for something for nobody to notice, and you're like, but I just passed his guard. Did nobody see that?
Yeah.
And these people are like, Toro Cup's tough. It's a tough event.
Great matchup. I mean, just DeAndre Corby and Joao Miao in this next Toro Cup. That's crazy. Whenever you made that match and posted it, I was like, wow.
So I got, you can, like, ask the parents from Revolution. I was in the middle of teaching, like, kids class, and I had, like, walked over, and I saw, like, the alert on my phone. And, like, like on the iPhone, how you just get the little line?
Yeah.
It's like email from Joao. And, like, in the subject, it was like it was the contract that I'd send him. It was him sending it back, and I just, like, dropped the phone. I was like, ah! I, like, ran around the whole room screaming, and I'm like, she's like grabbing kids. I'm like, yeah! like what's happening? Oh, nothing. Don't worry about it. I can't tell you that.
Especially now that he's won Worlds too. I mean, he
I
won Worlds
did.
before. I mean, but
we timed it pretty well. I'll pat myself on the back for that one. I was sitting there, like, it was me, Daniel Frank, and Dylan Martin, and John Kilmer, and Sean were watching Worlds. And, like, as it ends up, like, we're watching the bracket, and I'm like, come on, give it to him. Like, don't give it to your brother, give it to him. That would be much better for our marketing.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. So what's it like? We're getting to the end of our kind of hour. So what is it like to? Because you've got to put a lot of thought into these matches. I mean, commend you for. I don't know how many women's matches there are, but your women's matches are phenomenal. There's probably 10. There was on the last card, I think 11 women's matches last time.
I'll tell you right now.
And so just to put all of that together,
15.
That's incredible.
I think. Yeah, 15.
And the quality that you have with the competitors, a lot due to your facilitating of that matchmaking over the years and being the one to do it. But next to Joe Da Silva for the UFC, I really do believe you're the best matchmaker out there. Honestly,
I appreciate that. It really. I don't want to talk myself out of a job here, but it's not as hard as a lot of people think it is. I'm lucky that I'm in an area where we have so much talent. Like, because of U.S. grappling and the amount of, like, God knows how many IBJJF events I've done, where I just get an opportunity to see so many of these people compete. And along just North Carolina and Virginia alone, there's so many talented grapplers that they make it pretty easy for me, right? It's not like I'm having to go hunting for them anymore. They're coming to us now. And so I think if I was in, like, a different part of the country, it might be a little tougher, but it'd be nice when the rest of the country starts to realize what's going on over here.
No, agreed. I had that conversation with Boomer too. I mean, you would think that something with the rule set that Toro Cup has, with the following that it has, you would think it would be some content that somebody that's streaming, a Flow Grappling or whoever would want to pick up, because it's always incredible matches, always from top to bottom.
Yeah.
And usually like 25, 30 matches that you have. So it's incredible the stack cards that are out there.
And it keeps going up, right? We've got a couple ideas that Boomer and I are kicking around for the next one to try to.
It's always the next one.
Take
right?
it up a notch.
It's
always the next one, right? Yeah. It's at some point it might be moving to maybe somewhere a little bit bigger. That place is kind of small, but luckily Triangle Jiu-Jitsu, like the way that that's all set up is what makes. I have to explain this to people a lot because they want to know why don't you take Toro Cup to other places?
Sure.
Right? I'd love to. We've looked at it. The problem is what enables us to run the event the way we do, where we give half the ticket sales to charity, is the fact that we have people like Seth Shamp with Triangle Jiu-Jitsu who are essentially donating their facility to us, right? Boomer's able to operate right there and sell merchandise that day, so like makes sense for him. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we have to go somewhere and rent a facility and pay for other insurance, pay for event insurance, right? Pay for a lot of other extraneous things that come up, right? That now we're not able to really make this charitable donation the way we do now.
Yeah.
Which for Toro Cup, like one of my favorite things is like Chelsea McCoy for the last event, right? First of all, Chelsea McCoy paid to get into that event, which is insane to me. She like, we saw her at the end of the event. I was like, "Why do you have this wristband?" She's like, "Well, we paid to get in." I was like, "Oh God, Chelsea." But like, we literally handed Chelsea a bag of cash at the end of the day, and it's like, "This is yours. Like, you do with this. I don't care. Go to the mall. Go. I don't care. Put this towards your medical bills. Go on vacation. Buy a pony. I don't care. This is your money. Hope your life is easier now." But like, all of that money straight there, like it goes straight to those people. There's no like, we're taking, half the money goes to charity, but like we've got some fees we've got to cover, and like it just all goes to them. And it's usually just like a pile of cash. Take this, see ya, have a great day. It's like, I love that. I love being able to make like an actual difference in somebody's life.
In locally as well.
Yes.
Right. In the jiu-jitsu community, which is also awesome. And one of the main reasons that Phil and I think it's imperative that we support the Toro Cup all the time. So thank you for that. And lastly, Bagels, do you want to mention any of your sponsors that help you? We didn't even get in, and we'll do a follow-up to this for sure, but we didn't even get into your competition career and everything. Your top 10 now?
I don't know.
In the world? I think I saw that. It was like 9. That's incredible. It's an incredible accomplishment.
Thank you.
But do you have any sponsors that you'd like to mention?
Yes, I have Toro and Cage Side BJJ. Boomer has supported me since I was a white belt and fighting MMA, and we have been together ever since. And like, man, that guy does so much for jiu-jitsu in this area and people in this area, and just doesn't really get enough credit.
Agreed.
Betty Broadhurst with Roll Forever
She's awesome.
supports me and does an awesome job. I get delicious coffee from Forte Legato that, like, man, I don't even like want to do the math to add up like how much coffee he gives me, but it's greatly appreciated. High Road Revolution, which is a new sponsor of mine, which is kind of a different sponsor for me. The company there's no product. They aren't selling anything. Their whole goal or whole mission is to try to use jiu-jitsu to try to get people to just be nicer to one another and, do nice things for each other for no reason other than helping out one another.
Right.
And I think that kind of mission statement is awesome in today's society. And somebody that's just kind of selflessly trying to make the world a better place for no gain of their own is really awesome. Then I have Cam Photos and Designs and Remington Place Productions.
Nice,
All these
yeah.
people support me, and I really, really appreciate it, because
Awesome.
otherwise this lifestyle is not possible.
Right.
It really helps to have some people support you along the way.
100%. And tell people how they can follow you on Instagram or...
So you can follow me at Bagels BJJ on Instagram, or my name's John Bagels Telford on Facebook. There is applications for Toro Cup at www.torocup.com. And if you like to do jiu-jitsu tournaments, we have an awesome tournament coming up with U.S. Grappling in Raleigh next weekend, and then the weekend after, June 29th in Frederick, Maryland.
So June 22nd, Raleigh, June 29th in Frederick, Maryland.
Yes, sir.
Very good. And thank you for being on, Bagels. We really appreciate it.
Oh, I got one more.
Tell me.
BJJ Path.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This is
That's awesome.
Andrew
I love it.
Smith's new, like, instructional collection. I don't know what you call it, but it's a lot of people have these instructionals out now where you go on there and it's just like this sea of moves you kind of like get lost in.
Right.
And Andrew has done a really good job with BJJ Path, putting it together where you can go through and say you can click on a leg lock option and it'll start from, say, a basic foot lock entry and just kind of work down the list where you can keep going and keep following the progression of, like, as I do this leg attack, they're going to counter and do this, then I can look to do X, then Y, and you can kind of build your game very well. Also, having instructors or people showing you techniques that are obtainable, to me, is really important.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I can look at instructions on there, and then I could contact Andrew and say, hey, like, where's your hand doing on this grip, right? And to have somebody, like, they can actually answer that question for me. Or if I'm, like, having even more trouble, I could schedule a seminar, schedule a private, have them come to my academy and teach all this stuff that I really like. Is really awesome to me.
It's incredible. And actually, Phil and I were drilling the one the other day, the Deep De La Hiva rollover that Daniel...
Deep Del X?
Yeah, that Daniel Frank showed. We were drilling that. That's an incredible move. It's awesome. It's an easy move. It's not that hard of a move.
And I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's like $10 a month right now or something. It might be
great.
$15 a month, but it's like, it's so cheap.
It's really good.
It's incredible product.
Yeah, and just by the way, folks, if you want to see some of this in action, we have it on the BJJ campaign group
Awesome.
page that we shared, because it really is an incredible resource and something that I truly enjoy. So Phil, tell everyone how they can support us more than they already have.
Joining the group on Facebook, BJJ Campaign. The YouTube, same, BJJ Campaign Podcast. Facebook, regular page. Website, bjjcampaignpodcast.com. And you can buy a shirt or a patch.
Tell them about the deal we've got running with the shirt and the patches.
There's a special. You save $5.
Woo!
Yes! See, hype man.
That's
Bagels
awesome,
knows
man.
that's a
$5.
great
Think about all the things you could spend that $5 on.
Exactly.
You could buy
Cup of
something from
coffee.
Toro BJJ. You could
Exactly.
buy a cup of coffee from
Off
Forte
the
Legato.
discount rack, the $5 rack at BJJ.
It's nice.
Cage side is fire.
Well, Toro BJJ is who made the shirts. So
Oh,
Yes,
you know
of
that.
course they will.
It all comes
The
around.
Quality and the patches.
We are all wearing some quality shirts.
we are. aren't we?
Well-dressed crew.
Aren't we? But so everybody out there, if you're not out there doing something better with yourself, get out there and do it. Phil, Bagels, we choose Jiu-Jitsu, and we hope you do too.
I'm about to feed him to the sharks right now. Get him hype right now. Yeah. You know the ground is up. Yeah. Everybody that trains, you know the game. Yeah. So let's get it. Slap it up, bump it, and roll. Yeah, that's the way that it goes. Ain't no better way to better yourself in this game. You're feeling the growth. It's time on the mat. We put in the work. Believe it ain't easy, I know. But we train for the love of the game, the love of the art. Now slap it up, bump it, let's roll.